The sun bled over the desert, turning the sand to fire. Smoke rose from the ruins of a small Apache village, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the canyon. Amid the ashes, a young girl crouched behind a toppled teepee, clutching a carved pendant, the symbol of her tribe. Her name was Ayana, barely 10 summers old, and her world had just been destroyed. Gunshots cracked in the distance. Ayana pressed her small hands against her ears, trembling. Her people had fought bravely, but the raiders were many. Then footsteps. A man's voice, low and steady. She peeked through the smoke and saw him. A tall stranger in a worn brown coat, hat tilted low, a gun holstered at his side. He wasn't one of the raiders. His eyes were blue, filled not with greed but something else. Compassion. "Easy now," he murmured, kneeling in front of her. "You're safe, little one." Ayana didn't understand his words, but she understood his tone. He offered her water from his canteen, then lifted her gently into his arms. Behind them, fire licked at the earth, and the wind carried the smell of loss. He rode hard through the night, carrying her across the river into the shelter of the canyon. When morning came, she woke to find him tending a small fire. He had a bandaged arm, wounded saving her, she realized. He gave her food, motioned for her to eat. When she reached for her pendant, it slipped from her neck. He picked it up and pressed it against his heart, then placed his hand over hers, a gesture of promise. Even without words, they made a vow that morning, a bond between two souls from different worlds. Before he left, he pointed to the rising sun and said softly, "Someday, you'll be strong enough to walk your own path. When you do, you'll find me." Ayana nodded through her tears, memorizing his face, the scar on his left hand, the kindness in his eyes. Then he was gone, riding into the light, leaving her alone but alive. Years passed. The little girl grew into a warrior. She trained with her tribe's best, hunted with the men, and learned English from traders. She became known as Princess of the Plains, daughter of Chief Wachapi, the eternal blossom who had survived the fire. But no matter how much time passed, she never forgot the man who had saved her under the red sky. Every sunset, she looked west and whispered the same words. "I will find you, cowboy. I swore under the fire sky, and I never break my word." 15 years later, the West was no longer wild. It was dying. Railroads cut through sacred lands, mines tore up the hills, and white men built towns where buffalo once roamed. Ayana moved between both worlds, tribal daughter and skilled interpreter for the territorial government. She had become a bridge for peace and a ghost of vengeance. One day, she heard a rumor. In a border town called Red Creek, a man with a scar on his left hand had stopped a gang from robbing a train. The story hit her like thunder. That mark! She remembered it too well. She rode for days, her horse eating up the miles. The desert wind tangled her black hair, and the pendant around her neck glowed faintly in the sunset light. When she arrived at Red Creek, the air was thick with smoke and sin. A saloon piano played, and the laughter inside sounded like broken glass. She stepped inside. Heads turned, an Indian woman, tall, proud, wrapped in white buckskin and turquoise beads. Then her eyes found him, sitting alone in the corner, hat low, a whiskey glass in hand. Luke Carver, the cowboy who had once carried her through fire. He looked older, scarred by time. The kindness in his eyes was buried deep under years of guilt. Ayana approached, her heart pounding. "You once saved a girl from death," she said quietly. "She swore she would find you again." Luke froze, glass halfway to his lips. Slowly, he looked up. "That's a hell of a thing to say," he muttered, eyes narrowing. But when his gaze caught hers, something flickered recognition. He saw the same dark eyes that had once stared up at him through smoke and tears. "You," he whispered. "I thought you were just a dream." She smiled faintly. "Dreams don't ride this far." They spoke through the night, trading stories of years gone by. Luke had fought wars, hunted bandits, lost friends. Ayana had fought to keep her tribe alive under treaties written to be broken. Both were scarred by the same world. "I swore I'd find you," she told him by the fire outside town, "because you gave me my life." Luke stared into the flames. "And what did it cost you, princess?" She met his gaze. Everything. But I'd do it again. For the first time in years, Luke smiled, small, sad, but real. Then maybe I did one good thing after all. Section 3. The Fire Between Peace and War. Their reunion was brief. Peace was an illusion in the West. Tension boiled between settlers and Ayana's people. When a group of miners trespassed on a tribal land, killing buffalo and desecrating graves, the young warriors demanded revenge. Ayana pleaded for patience, but her voice was drowned out by anger. Luke, now working as a scout for the army, found himself caught in the middle. His duty said one thing. His heart said another. When orders came to arrest Chief Wachapi, Ayana's father, for inciting violence, Luke knew the truth. It was a trap to break the tribe's spirit. That night, he rode hard to Ayana's camp. "They're coming for your father," he warned. "You need to run." Her eyes flashed with fury. "Run? No. We fight." Luke shook his head. "You don't understand. They'll slaughter your people." "Then I will die with them," she said, voice cold as a wind. "My people will not kneel." When the soldiers arrived at dawn, Red Creek burned. Smoke filled the sky once again, history repeating itself. But this time, Ayana and Luke fought side by side. Her arrows struck true. His gun spoke thunder. Together they cut through the chaos, freeing her father from the soldiers' grip and escaping to the canyon under a rain of bullets. By nightfall, they reached the same place where they had first met, the Canyon of the Red Sky. Wounded and breathless, they took shelter beneath the cliffs. Luke broke the silence. "You saved me this time." Ayana smiled faintly through her exhaustion. "The debt is paid, cowboy." He reached for her hand. "You never owe me anything." She looked up, eyes glimmering with starlight. "Then maybe I was meant to find you, not to repay, but to remind you that even in war, there's still something worth saving." That night, under the crimson glow of fire and dawn, they shared their first kiss. Not of passion, but of promise. Two souls meeting again where it had all begun. Peace was fleeting. The army branded Luke a traitor for aiding Ayana. The tribe was forced to scatter, their lands taken. Luke and Ayana became fugitives. Legends whispered about in camps and taverns. Some said they rode for freedom. Others said they were ghosts haunting the borderlands. Weeks turned into months. They hid in the wild lands beyond the canyon, living on hope and stolen moments. Luke's health worsened. The bullet wound from Red Creek had festered, but he never complained. Every sunrise he spent watching her braid her hair by the river, he said was worth a lifetime. One morning, scouts tracked them to canyon. Surrounded by soldiers, they stood side by side one last time. Luke looked at her and smiled. "Looks like our story's ending, Princess." She shook her head, gripping her bow. "No, we end nothing. We begin everything." They fought like spirits of vengeance, her arrows cutting to the dawnlight, his revolver roaring in rhythm. They held the canyon until silence fell. The soldiers retreated, leaving behind only the sound of the wind. But Luke fell. His body crumpled beside the same river where he once saved her life. Ayana dropped to her knees, cradling him. "No, don't you dare," she whispered, tears streaking her face. He smiled faintly. "Guess I kept my promise. You found me." Her fingers trembled as she pressed the pendant to his chest. "And I'll find you again in the next life." With the sunrise painting his face gold, Luke Carver took his final breath, his eyes never leaving hers. She buried him beneath the red canyon stones and carved their symbols together, her tribes marked beside his name. Years later, travelers spoke of a lone rider seen at dusk, a woman in white buckskin, her hair braided with feathers, riding beneath the burning sky. They said she was searching for a man she once loved, her spirit bound to the promise she made as a child. And when the sunset turns the desert red, some swear they see them together, the Indian princess and her cowboy, standing side by side beneath the endless western sky.